Good morning all and happy Saturday. Today again I just thought let's make another lazy recipe video. I am actually loving filming these kind of videos. I just feel like it's so much more intimate. It's not so like forced and it's a lot easier for me to talk like this. So yeah, I hope you guys feel the same. But today I realized I haven't actually made a classic vanilla sponge cake for you guys yet. So that is exactly what we're going to do today. I managed to find these incredible flowers down at like, it's like a grocery store, but it's not a grocery store. It's like a little independent grocery store, and these like beautiful little like flowers, super colorful. So I figured I'm gonna make a really lovely like floral vanilla cake today, which I think will be really lovely. So yeah, let's get into the recipe. Okay, so first things first, I have got my oven preheating at 180 degrees Celsius. I have also lined my tins. So I've got a little knob of butter here, and I'm just gonna run them around my tins. So I'm making a 6-inch cake, but these tins are quite high. So I'm hoping that I can get about 3 or 4 layers of sponge with these cakes. So I'm just literally putting bits of butter. This isn't breaking very well, but you can kind of see there, like bits of butter around the sides. And then I'm gonna pop in my little disc, put that in the bottom, and then put my little skirts, I guess you can call them, around the side of the baking tin. Like so. So they are all ready to go for when our cake is ready, because what we want to do is once the batter is like pretty much good to go, we whack them in there, we put them straight in the oven, and we don't dilly-dally, which is good. So I'm going to do my other one now, and then we can actually start making the cake batter. It's time to make the cake batter. So as always, I have my trusty KitchenAid that I'm just going to plug in. Alright, so this recipe, as I said before, is super easy. It is basically the same amount of butter, sugar and flour, and then half the amount of milk. So super easy. So you can kind of like double it based on how big you want the cake to be. So I'm making a 6-inch cake. This batter will make enough, definitely enough for a 6-inch cake, maybe even a 7-inch cake, but I just want the layers of, I want a lot of layers of sponge in my cake. I want it quite a tall cake rather than a shallow one. So first of all, we have 30 grams, I'm gonna start that again. First of all, we've got 300 grams of butter and 300 grams of caster sugar that I'm going to pop into my mixer. I've slightly softened the butter just so it is a lot easier for us to beat through. Get out my utensil, and then we're just going to beat this, well, cream this until the butter and the sugar have come together really light and creamy. The butter is essentially white in color. We're incorporating a lot of air, and it goes really nice and fluffy, and it also adds a lot of volume to the cake too, which is what we want. So we're going to do that. I would say beat it or cream it for at least 5 minutes. We want it to be lovely and light and fluffy. So we'll whack that on now, and then we'll see you in a bit. Another little trick that I want to show you is, if your butter and sugar are finding it really hard to sort of come together, a little trick that you can actually do is use a trusty blowtorch around the sides of your bowl just to help sort of soften that butter even more. Even if you did soften the butter prior to beating it, and the temperature outside is quite chilly as it is today in Melbourne, this is a really handy tip to just sort of help soften the batter. You don't want to hot spot it on one area, you want to sort of rotate around the sides of the bowl. Again, be very, very careful if you are doing this, but it will just help incorporate the butter and sugar together and soften it up and fluff it up a little bit easier for you. So there is your trusty tip for the day. Alrighty, so now our butter and sugar has come together really nicely. It's lovely and light and fluffy and lovely pale in colour, which is exactly what we want. We are going to add our eggs and our lemon zest. Now, I am very aware that before I told you it was a vanilla cake, we're not making a vanilla cake. It's a vanilla cake base, but we're actually adding lemon zest to it and a bit of lemony goodness, because I've just decided that I wanted to change my mind. So I have 3 lemons zested into a little bowl here that I'm just going to add into my butter mixture. Okay, we're a bit wonky, but hey ho. Okay, so we've added in our lovely lemon zest before we fell over. Then we're going to add in 3 eggs. So we'll crack those in now, like so. And then we're going to beat this again on a slow to medium speed until all of the eggs and the butter and the lemon zest is lovely and distributed throughout. So now that that has all come together lovely, it is time to add our flour and our baking powder. So as I said before, we have 300 grams of plain flour that I'm just going to slowly add into our butter mix, as well as 3 tablespoons of baking powder that I'm also just going to add in as well. And then we're just going to very, very slowly mix this together. We kind of want to slowly incorporate it, and then we're going to add in our milk. So we don't want it to fully come together, we kind of just want it to like half come together. Lovely, and then we can add in our 150 mils of milk. And then beat that on a slow to medium speed until that has all come together nicely. Okay, so now that that has all come together nicely, we're just going to whack the speed up until it is lovely and fluffy and all thoroughly incorporated, and then our batter is ready to go in the oven. Okay, so that is looking absolutely beautiful. It's lovely and light in colour. It smells super lemony, which is exactly what we love. So we're just going to get rid of all of this excess batter off of our beater handle, and then we can start dividing the batter in between our baking tins. So as I said before, I've got 2 6-inch tins. I'm going to fill these up quite full because I actually probably have enough mixture to maybe even fill 3 tins, but I'm just going to see how we go. So get off all of that goodness, give that a final stir around, make sure that everything is incorporated from the sides. You've got no extra flour hanging around or any butter hanging around the bottom, but it's looking pretty good and it smells absolutely delicious. So with this recipe, which I probably should have mentioned before, it's super versatile. So you could omit the lemon if you wanted and add some vanilla. You could add some desiccated coconut. You could add some chocolate chips, whatever you wanted, even some fresh raspberries, to really make that recipe kind of whatever flavor you want. Like the base vanilla recipe is just perfect. You can, it's really versatile. You can add whatever you want to it. So it is a winner, if I must say so myself. So I have got my 2 tins here. I'm just going to, not spill it all over the counter. I'm going to divide my cake batter between the 2 tins evenly, and then we can then pop them in the oven. we're going to pop our 2 lovely little cake tins into the oven now. I'm going to put them in for roughly, I actually think it will be close to 30 minutes in a preheated oven at 180. So I'm going to pop them in for 30 minutes, but see how they go. We want them to be lovely and springy on top, but lovely and golden brown as well. If you ever get confused, put them in for roughly 25 to 30 minutes, but keep an eye on them, and also pop a skewer in and test if they are done. So we are going to bake these beautiful things, and we shall see you in a bit. So our lovely cakes have come out of the oven. They're looking and smelling delicious. So now it is time to assemble and decorate, which is actually my favorite thing. So what I have is a trusty cake leveler, I'm gonna call it. There is a proper term for it, I can't remember what it is. Basically you use it like a saw and you just saw along the cake. So I'm gonna show you that now. I'm gonna level my cakes off. I'm hoping to get 4 layers of sponge from my cake, so I'll have 6-inch 4 layers, which is like perfect. So I literally, what I do is I push it against the cake like this and literally saw through the cake. You want to make sure that both the ends are always on a chopping board or on a flat level surface, and then you can just pull the cake off like that and you have one lovely, really flat layer, which is exactly what we want. So we're going to do that for the rest of the cakes, and then it's time to decorate. Alrighty, so our lovely cake layers are all done. We have our turntable at the ready, and we have some lemon curd, which I made earlier. I will leave a little link to the description in the description box below to the recipe of the lemon curd that I made. And also, you obviously can't have a cake without icing, so I have also made some Swiss meringue buttercream icing as well, which again, I have a video on my YouTube channel for as well, so I will link that in the description box below so you can kind of just watch them all together. Okay, so now it is assembly time. I have a trusty palette knife, a little cranked palette knife here. We are going to grab some of our buttercream. I also have a cake board here. It's a 9-inch cake board, which just leaves plenty of space around the cake. I'm just going to pop a nice chunk of icing on my cake board, and then I'm going to grab one of the bottoms of the cake, and I'm going to stick that down in the center of my cake board and just firmly push it down on the cake board once it's in that center. And then next I'm going to, so I've got a piping bag here. I prefer to work my icing in a piping bag, especially with creating layers and making sure that they're the right thickness and the same thickness. So this is my little top tip. So we've got a piping bag here with no nozzle or anything like that. And I'm just gonna grab some icing and pop some icing in my piping bag. Make sure that that's all in there, like so. And now this allows us to essentially create a border around the cake, which is exactly what we want so that none of our lemon curd comes outside. So, grab some scissors, cut the end of your piping bag off. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna pipe around the perimeter of the cake with an even pressure, and that will essentially, excuse the shakes, very shaky today, wow. And that will essentially create this lovely border. I'm gonna go around twice because I don't want that much lemon curd. So I'm just gonna do another ring around, like so. And then that allows the perfect amount of lemon curd to go in the center. So then we'll grab my lovely lemon curd, grab a spoon, and I have had my lemon curd sitting in the fridge with cling film on the top so that it doesn't create a skin on the top, but it's still quite runny. So it's really handy to create that border of icing just to prevent any of this lemon curd spilling out the sides. So then we'll fill that center with our lemon curd. And then it's time to put on our next layer of cake. So I'm just gonna very gently pop that on the top and give it a nice push down, like so. And then just repeat the same process across the whole layers of the sponge of the cake until it is lovely and finished. Alright, so what I'm doing now is I've just put some extra icing around the outsides of the cake, and I'm basically just giving it a nice crumb coat just to cover the majority of the sponge and keep that really nice and moist so that the sponge doesn't dry out. Now, you don't have to do this step. You can go straight onto the covering of the cake and the proper icing layer, but I just prefer to sort of lock in all of that moisture, and it allows the cake to also settle, because as you can probably see, once I push the cake and the spatula up against, once I push the spatula up against the cake, you can see that it wobbles quite a bit. That's because our icing isn't firm. And also we've got quite a lot of lemon curd in our cake too. So there is quite a bit of movement. So by putting it in the fridge with this crumb coat, just stabilizes the cake a little and allows it to sort of relax and all the flavors to mingle and all of that good stuff. So now that's pretty much covered, as you can see. I'm gonna chuck it in the fridge for roughly around an hour, just to get it lovely and firm. And then we can do the full icing cover very shortly. Our lovely cake has come out of the fridge. It's cool to touch. It's not super hard, which is fine. And now it's time to do our proper coat of the cake. So I have got my remainder of my Swiss meringue buttercream, and I've just chucked some lemon curd that I had extra into the Swiss meringue buttercream, so it's lovely and tart. And we're basically just gonna completely coat our cake. Now normally I just like to put a good old dollop of icing around the top of the cake, and then just sort of let it fall off, and then I just scoop it around the sides. However, as you just did see, it doesn't always work, so just do whatever works best for you. But we just want to make sure that the cake is fully coated, and it's probably got like a good 1 to 2 centimeters of icing around the sides of the cake. Now, I do have this
trusty little cake tool here from Loyal that is actually perfect to get the really, really smooth edges on your cake. So what you do is you just basically line it up so that this part here is right angled to your cake, and then you just scoop it around, keeping it very, very straight, and it allows you to get the really, really smooth, sharp edges on your cake, and then any extra icing you can just take off. But this normally takes a good couple of goes. I like to go around at least 3 or 4 times before I've got like my perfect coat on there, because I normally see the little imperfections and the areas that don't have as much buttercream as well.
And if you're finding that your icing is getting super, super hard because of the temperature outside, you can always give it a little go on the blowtorch, just to like loosen it up a little bit, which is what I'm gonna do. Not too much, just very, very lightly, just to help encourage it to loosen up a little bit, to get rid of all of those air bubbles, and you'll find that this finish will be a lot smoother too. But you don't wanna melt your buttercream, you just literally just want to get it nice and smooth. Okay guys, so once you get to a point where you are pretty much happy with your cake, you can go around it as many times as you like. You really don't need to be as pedantic as I was, but I just love a straight edge, and I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I just want to make sure it's like perfect. Now, so we've got our cake fully iced. It is pretty, I popped it in the fridge for like 10 minutes just to kind of chill it out a little bit, but we still want it wet so that we can still put our lovely little flowers on. So if you've made it this far in the video, you remember at the very beginning I showed you my lovely edible flowers that I've picked up from the market. So I'm just going to play around with them and stick those all over the cake. Now, because the icing is still quite wet, I can still just place them on. So I'm just going to simply pop them on and just push them slightly in, just so that they're lovely and pressed like that. And I'm going to go all the way around the cake. Look how pretty she looks. So I have just finished my lovely cake and I'm so happy with it. I just think it's so pretty, so basic, but so pretty at the same time. And I couldn't help myself, but I've already cut myself a nice little slice. I wanted to see what was like inside. So I've cut myself a slice and I just thought, why not? Let's just try some. So you can actually see like the layers of lemon curd there. Like I've nibbled it all here, but like that was lemon curd and then there's the lovely icing there. So yummy. I'm actually gonna have some of the top. Cheers. Heaven. And it's a lovely like dense cake as well, not dry, so lemony, so zesty, delicious. Like those lemons I think are the tartest, sourest lemons I've ever had. They were so yummy. So there we have it guys, my classic lemon cake, which was a vanilla cake at the beginning of the recipe, but it's now a lemon cake. I hope you enjoyed the recipe. Please feel free to like, share and subscribe, and we shall see you next week. Bye guys.